A Met officer has been accused of shoving a 9-year-old boy at the Palestine march. I'm going to read into this more from Open Democracy, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from Open Democracy with the headline that a Met police officer has been accused of shoving a 9-year-old boy in the Palestine march. The child was left needing hospital treatment after the incident on Vauxhall Bridge, his parents say. Now, this is quite an accuse, to say the least. But we also know that despite the police have, with respect in the incident with regards to the far right, we commend them for their handling of dealing with that incident. But as we have always talked about here on this channel, and you may have heard from others, about how inappropriate and how what's the word? Not being fair, shall we say, in terms of the way it handles itself and conducts itself. Certain police officers, shall we say. I've always said for the need that police need reform, not dissolvement. And while there are times when they do good, we are seeing more and more bad reports of the police forces particularly in England, than we see of good. And it does unfortunately paint good police officers who do wonderful work in a bad light, and I do sympathise with them. But it is accusations like these that need to be addressed. And unfortunately, there are a huge amount of police complaints piling up that have yet to be resolved. And there's not really a fair judicial system of those being accused and accountability coming to. That being said, pushing a 9-year-old boy in a Palestine march, I do have to wonder what was the reason for pushing him. I think it's a good question. Why was he pushed? And what was the push that bad that he needed to be treated for hospital? Like, where was he in the march? There are lots of questions. Is there video footage of this as well? I've not seen any. Maybe some of you guys may have. But let's have a read into it to get a better bearing of it, guys. So, a police officer has been accused of shoving a 9-year-old boy as he left Saturday's march for Palestine with his parents, leaving him needing hospital treatment. In a video in what appears to be the aftermath of an incident seen by Open Democracy, the boy's parents asked the officer why he pushed their son, and in response he said he had brought their child to a violent protest. So they've seen a video. The child was taken to the hospital where medics confirmed that he had suffered a soft tissue injury on his shoulder, according to his parents Abu and Saheema, who have asked us not to use their surname. They blamed the incident on the comments of the former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who labelled the Palestine protests hate marches. They were peaceful protesting. The vast majority were peaceful. There was a minority of Hamas and of Hamas supporters, but the vast majority were peaceful protesters. And if you don't want to take my word for it, why don't you take it from Helen from No Justice on her YouTube channel, because she was actually physically there at the marches, so she can speak as someone who was actually there. She was feeding the narrative that something bad was going to happen, Abu said. And then this is what happens. You take it out on the wrong people for no reason. The family were walking over Vauxhall Bridge back to their car following the march attended by hundreds of thousands of people. The exhausted 9-year-old walked a few paces ahead of Abu and Saheema and went to sit at the edge of a curb, just a few metres away from a line of police officers who were facing the opposite direction. When the boy noticed the officers started to walk in the same direction the family were going in, he got up, at which point his parents alleged that he was shoved out of the way by an officer who told him to move. He's 9 years old. He's not that big. You can easily tell he's a child. It's bullying. Because you're intimidating someone that's a lot smaller than you, Abu said. In a video published by the family on social media, Abu is heard asking the officer, "Why did you push a child?" The officer responded with, "I suggest you get away." The officer then alleged snatched the phone and throws it to the ground. If that's true, that bit there in this video that's apparently out there, that's an attempt to hide the evidence of what they've just done. Here, snatching the phone and throwing it away. That's an officer letting their emotions get the better of them in a very heated situation. That's a police officer not conducting themselves properly. And I know how difficult it is for police here to do their jobs, but they cannot and they must not let their emotions get in the way of things. And whether they were right or wrong to push the child, I don't know. But allegedly snatching the phone and throwing it to the ground, that tells me that they are losing control of their emotions in that heat. In a second video seen by openDemocracy, shock and distress can be heard at the parents' voices as they challenge the officer, asking why he pushed their son. The officer then turns to them and responds with, "You brought your child to a violent protest. Think about what you're doing." Abu then responds by saying, Is it a violent protest? You're making it violent. You're making it violent. You pushed a child. I saw my son on the side and he was in absolute bits, crying and holding his shoulder, Saheema said. The force that he pushed my child with, that's how he went flying to one side. There was no compassion or care. It was with force and aggression. I could see my son's face that he was hurt, he was in tears. The only people they could have kept us from were actually themselves. Saheema said the officer's colleagues told him, "He's just protecting your child, he's keeping him safe," but they believed there was nothing happening in the area around them that they needed to be protected from, particularly as they were already leaving the protest. So the only people they could keep us safe from were actually themselves, his father said. The boy's mother said he was disgusted with the reaction from the officer in question, but also by the fact that none of the other officers who witnessed the incident stopped and showed a bit of empathy and compassion. The parents, who have attended multiple protests with their 9 insecure-year-old children, say that the same judgment calls as the hundreds of other parents at Palestine's solidarity marches. "We've been to plenty of protests and we've never had a situation where it turned violent," Abu said. Police arrested more than 120 people on Saturday, most of whom were for far-right protesters who had mobilised to protect the cenotaph. Abu said the impact of the incident and his son has been clear, as well as needing hospital treatment. He said that he went to go everywhere with his parents, but he's now feeling very wary about the travelling to London and attending future protests. It obviously still affects him, he said. His parents are calling for anyone with footage of the incident to get in touch. The Met Police have been contacted for comment. This article was on Friday on the 17th of November. So as of the time of this recording, guys, I have yet to see video footage of it. So if you happen to come across any of this footage online or anywhere, please drop a link in the comments section down below for me. I will try to have a look and see if I can find it myself. But if you happen to come across it before me, please drop me a link, because I do want to just see the footage for myself, just so I get clarity over this story. Now, obviously, let's be very clear here. The vast majority of the pro-Palestine marches have been very, very peaceful. They have been good, to say the least. Their right to peacefully protest for a ceasefire in Gaza. It's not about whether you agree with the protest or not. It's their fundamental democratic right for them to do so. Now, obviously, I don't know for certain whether there was an incident building up or if there was any violence or tension or whatever building up. But in my opinion, based on what I've read here and what has been said here, the portrayal of what it seems to me is that the police officer, rather than could have handled the situation better, handled it inappropriately, and let their emotions get the better of them, allegedly. That is what my belief is based on the article. Now, that doesn't mean that that is what happened, because I have not seen the video footage to verify that that is what happened, and it's very important for me to stress that. However, if that is to be the case, then the police officer, well, basically action needs to be taken against that police officer, because the officer did not handle the situation appropriately and needs to pay for it. And I think it's just as simple as that. What do you guys honestly make of this story? Do you honestly think that this is that the police officer is claiming that they were justified in doing it, trying to protect them, that you shouldn't be taking their son to a violent protest? So far, up to date, up to this point, up to that weekend, there were very few instances taking place with the pro-Palestine march. However, things have changed. However, last weekend things were a little bit more Nancy, but not as much as the far right claiming to protect the cenotaph. But what do you guys honestly think about this story? And should the police officer lose their job essentially for losing of their emotions, losing their control of their emotions in a situation like that? Should the officer handle it better? What would you have done if you were that police officer? How would you have responded and handled it in that situation? Let me know in the comment section down below what you honestly think. Hit the like button, we greatly appreciate. Share across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I go live. And if you want to financially support me, you can do that by buying me a coffee. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.